Welcome to Make a Path Presents. My name is Ronnie Hayes, and this is the Walking Dead comic Q&A number 9. Number 8, I mean. I'm getting ahead of myself. If you want to participate, rules are in that comment box, and be sure to thumb up any questions. I think that only works on a computer, though, but thumb up all the questions that you guys want answered from other people as well. Jumping right into this, Long O Lava, 1234. I noticed Dwight's shadow looked kind of like Negan in the end of issue 149. Do you think this was symbolic of something or just coincidence? Here's the thing with that. We know that Dwight has that longer hair now, and that longer hair could have made the shadow of the collar. And if they did do something like that to make it look like Negan, I think it was a nice little play on the shadow, but in no way in hell. Because I actually heard a couple people come right out and say that it was Negan's shadow. Like, it wasn't that Dwight's shadow resembled Negan, and that's how I feel. Dwight's shadow resembled Negan, because The Walking Dead is, for the most part, grounded in reality outside of, obviously the walkers and stuff like that, but certain things that pertain to the apocalypse and the walkers. But to sit there and say that his shadow is actually Negan's shadow, that pushes... I don't know, that gets a little silly. But I do believe that Dwight's shadow, with the long hair in the back, making it look like the collar, I do believe that it, resembled Negan's shadow. And was that done on purpose or a coincidence? I'm going to say, at this point, I would buy both. If they came out and says, yeah, it was kind of symbolic. Right now, I'm not sure what it would be symbolic for, other than the fact of the obvious, but I'm going to go with, me personally, just coincidence that, Dwight's shadow resembles Negan's, I just think that's simple. If you guys got any other thoughts on that, please share down below. That Negan lover, in your opinion, what would have been a better death for comic book Abraham? Dying in all-out war. Radical Z, since issue 150 is titled Betrayed, who do you think will betray Rick? I think Josh's parents and Tammy, the wife, the people from Hilltop, that couple, and a few more residents. I think it's residents at Alexandria and Hilltop. I think that's who betrays Rick. I had to crack my back. Ben Fatito. Will we see other spin-off comic books written by Kirkman in the world of The Walking Dead? No, I don't believe so. I know Kirkman has talked a couple times against spin-offs with The Walking Dead. I do know Brian K. Vaughan. He did Saga. He also recently did the We Stand on Guard. That's the one I was reading. I know he's doing one. I did hear that it was... only going to be a few issues. Now, that's not confirmed, I don't believe, but someone did say, or maybe it was mentioned in an article, and I don't know if that's true completely. I was under the impression at first that it was going to be a continuing series, but now I'm hearing that it's only going to be maybe a few, let's say one volume, which is weird. So yeah, Brian Vaughan might be doing a volume that's only going to be digital. You can't buy it in print. Again, this is just the news at first, and you can only buy it at the Dynamic or whatever. I'll leave the links down below, but you can only buy it through his online company. I believe that was the deal. As far as Kirkman doing it, no, at this point I don't see any reason he needs to, because if he wants to tell something that's a spin-off, he can do it in more lucrative ways. Video games, TV shows, Netflix show, anything. I mean, shit, the world is open to possibilities on that one. Ivan Villa, do you think there is enough Whisper conflict to last till issue 200? No way in hell. Now listen, I'm talking about direct Whisper contact. Now, if Negan lives till issue 200, will you sit there and say, Negan and the Saviors conflict, will that last till issue 200? Because characters can last longer than their initial story arc. Like Negan's main story arc, at this point in time, if he died right now, would have been the Something to Fear up to the All-Out War. That was like his chunk of story. Same thing with the Governor. The Governor had a chunk of story. If these certain characters that are in those chunks lives on, and I'm saying like the Whisperers, if Lydia lived on till issue 200, that doesn't mean that the Whisperers lived on to issue 200. So I'm trying to say that's not what you asked. You asked about specifically conflict. So no, I do not believe, no way in hell can the conflict itself, the fighting, last till issue 200. Unless, of course, if there was some deviation and like a moment of rest without any conflict, which that would be years of the Whisperers being on the back burner. I just don't see that happening. I'm going to say no. The King, for Q&A number 5. Listen, you do not tell me what Q&A your question is going to go in. Yeah, boss. Alright, I'm playing, by the way. Who do you think will be the next important character to die? Obviously, I, like everyone else, almost everyone else, got a funny suspicion with Andrea because Rick proclaimed his love to her. I hope that's not the case just yet, but I'm worried about Andrea. DVG Reviewer. Do you think they should continue going in the villain of the day direction that it is currently in better, or would you like the story to take a breather for a few volumes and focus more on surviving against the dead or natural disasters? Yeah, listen, they've kind of been doing that, you know, the governor, the hunters, who else? No, they had some domestic shit with Alexandria, and then Negan and the Saviors. Yeah, it's kind of like a villain of the day. Here's the thing is, unfortunately, I think we're always going to have villains. Unless someone can go down below in the comments section and actually write some interesting ideas for The Walking Dead without villains, and think about it, has to last years. I don't think The Walking Dead would be interesting without conflict. And it could be just walkers. You can set something up, but you'd have to take the people out of Alexandria to do that, because I don't think hiding behind the walls is going to do that. So I'm going to say the villain of the day is absolutely necessary, but it would be refreshing to break it up, you know. And in all reality, I do feel like they have done that. Enough to where I'm completely fine with how the comic has played out for the most part. I slept wrong. I had to stretch out my back. Anyway, I do want something fresh. You know, natural disasters. I do want something different. After the Whisperers, at this point, I demand it. Give us some kind of breather and give us something else other than the villain of the day. But at the end of the day, I understand it's completely necessary, and it's something I want to see. I want to see them living and fighting and struggling. Go back and look at what medieval times where they lived back then. It was like every village was at war all the time. So for all those people who say that it's unrealistic to how we would live, yeah, okay, because the Wild West, or when they came here and killed all the Native Americans, yeah, it was all full of peace, love, and happiness, right? Josh Belcher. Do you think Kirkman is misdirecting the Eugene's radio, or do you think that he is foreshadowing something ahead, and this will turn out as a payoff 20 to 40 issues down the road? Also, how will Kirkman utilize the radio? Listen, I think you utilize the radio the only way you can, you know, as far as picking up transmission. Now, I do not believe he's misdirecting anything, because I think that's one of those easy setups, you know. It's a radio. It's a friggin' radio. If they focused on this radio as much as they did now, and they turned around and they used it to just beat someone's head in, and they were like, well, this radio is garbage, I would be pissed. That's a setup with a false payoff, and it's bad writing. So they need to do something to push the story forward with the radio, especially now. They've already showcased it too much to backtrack and be like, yeah, the radio's not that important. Tim Hess, do you think Carl losing his eye is foreshadowing for him to eventually become a villain like the governor? No, I do not. Andrew Atkins, if Lydia dies, how do you think it would affect Carl? Do you think he would be a murderous type afterwards, or would he just move on for her death? I think he would do it immediately. If someone walked up and just killed her, he'd go apeshit. It all matters on how she dies and who kills her. I don't believe that he would be, wrecked permanently if she dies. And not right yet, anyway. I do believe he would fight, he would kill to protect her, but I don't believe he would be completely crushed if she died right now. Now, if she lasted a few issues and they grew a bond together, maybe she was pregnant with his kid, yeah, that's a different story. He would probably be damaged a little bit, but, you know, right now I don't think it's going to crush him. Tyler Mathna. The Tony Moore variant cover for issue 150 has Rick holding a shotgun shell in his mouth. Now, I know he is holding a shell in his hand back in issue 1, but do you think that this could foreshadow his possible death in the future with a bullet to the head? No way in hell. First off, Tony Moore doesn't have a clue where the story's going to go. Now, I'm sure Kirkman has maybe informed him a little bit or gave him a little idea, but that's not how variant covers work. When they bring in other artists, they don't sit there and say, okay, listen, this is everything that's going to happen in the next 50 issues. Throw some foreshadowing in there. They don't do that. So, logically, we'd have to look at the cover and look at it logically. Why does he have a bullet in his mouth? Well, he's kind of missing a hand, you know? So, he's loading the shotgun, holding it with his cut-off hand, and he's got a bullet in the mouth, so maybe he had a couple shells, put one in his mouth, started loading them, you know, take it out of his mouth low. That feels real. It feels like a nice little bit of realism added. I give Tony more credit for that. That is pretty cool. And he looks badass. At first I thought it was a cigar the moment I first seen it. I was like, well, that's odd. Rick smokes. But yeah, it's a shotgun shell, and I think it's because he has his arm cut off, not because it's foreshadowing. And again, the artists doing variant covers do not have knowledge of what's coming up in the comic. Alright, that's enough.
Subscribe now.